You think that my mind is like your mind, but it isn't. There's no need to feel guilty. I haven't done anything I'm ashamed of. Because we're outlaws. You're in war, mister. Believe me, if I started murdering people, there'd be none of you left.
A movie actress and four of her friends were murdered. Circumstances were lurid.
A scene described by one investigator as reminiscent of a weird religious
This was at the home of movie-director Roman Polanski, with his wife,
8 months pregnant. Bodies were scattered inside, on the lawn, and the yard.
TPC Sports and the PGA Tour are delighted to bring you the seasonal race for the FedEx Cup.
The scene
We're at the John Deere Classic. Today's coverage is back to be delighted you're able to join us in this first round action. I'm Luke Elvey. It's great to have your company, and I'm alongside Rich Beam in the booth. Rich, let's get stuck into it. What's this over the whole line?
Par 4, 391 yards from the back. Grip it, tee it high, let it fly, whatever you want to say. Take the driver out, get it as far down there as you can, get it over the hill.
Tentative identification of the
second
person
shot,
are
we're
as
gonna have
follows.
just a short little wedge
Sharon
in second.
Polanski,
I've got to say,
Jay Sebring,
that's just begging to make
Wojtek
3
Blankowski,
Big day coming up. Can't wait to see how it unfolds, Rich. This should be an absolute
and
beauty.
another man who
Let's
is
see what
unknown.
kind of Tony
Two of
sits
the bodies
himself
found
today.
fallen on them? No. 2 of the bodies were found inside the house, 1 in the vehicle, and 2 on the front lawn.
we understand she was pregnant, is that correct?
Yes, she is pregnant, but I'm
And
not
you
going
that
to
way.
discuss how.
We're taking the second shot into the first.
This I'd rather not discuss.
Jerry thinks scrawled on the front door of the house in blood.
I can't answer that question. Do you have any kind of,
Oh my God, what was that?
ATVs out, any suspects at all?
Jesus
The only person
Christ.
we have at this
And
time
here
is
we are
Mr.
with the
Garrison,
third shot.
whom we're questioning because he was on the premises this morning when we made a ride.
Why is this case more complicated than other cases that you can't comment on? Well, what's the difference in this case? Well, how many cases and how many times do you have 5 persons who become married at the same time?
Coming up here. And down it goes. Let's head to the next.
Dying is easy.
Starting the round at even par.
A middle-aged couple was found murdered in similar circumstances.
Time to tee off at the
The
second.
latest murders were discovered
Par 5,
during the night.
551
The bodies of
yards
a man and his
long.
wife
You want
found
to
in
cut
their
the
home.
corner as much as possible
Leo
to shorten your
Labianca,
second shot on this par 5. Should you do that, a very straightforward second shot will set up birdies and eagles all day long. Find the trouble off the tee, and you'll find trouble on the rest of the hole. Don't fool yourself.
Oh my God, it's happened again. The slaughter
Stop.
of innocent people. That
The
set
second hole
off
at
a
TPC Deere on Rich
state in
really
Los
get them
Angeles.
off the players.
Most players will go for this green into Luke. Knock it on, can easily make birdie, maybe an eagle. Get a little careless, missing to the left or the right from the green. Pars and bogeys.
Nah, I knew that was gonna fucking happen.
And this effort by Justin Thomas. And here we are with their 4.
Ah, yes.
That is absolutely brilliant. The rarest of shots.
Ooh, tasty little pitch shot. Gets it to go. Fist pumps all around.
And back to the course with the live action. Getting ready to play their third. How close was that to going in the hole? Great shot. Just a 4-footer remaining. And that's the kind of fighting spirit that keeps a good round going.
Come to find out, she's
Grind it
American
out,
all the time.
hit the bunker,
A beautiful young lady you're going to be hearing a lot from.
Nicely
She's in
done.
London filming The Vampire Killers, a new film by director Roman
Moving up the
Polanski.
leaderboard. I like
Sharon
it.
Tate is the young lady's name.
We have a par 3 on this one.
I was going
Par
down
3,
Texas.
183 yards up the hill.
And live
Line
all of your
tee
life
shot.
in there?
The big
Not
miss here
with
is short
anything
right.
for you.
What was it?
My dad's
Find
Naomi.
that bunker, you're also
An
going to find
army
yourself
threat
maybe
made good, huh?
or worse.
Right.
Okay, we're on the green. Is
And
it
now,
good shot?
here's a monster movie.
Not really.
What's it called?
It's called The Vampire Killers.
That's a brilliant shot there.
Sharon.
John, how long's this putt? Seems to be a fair way.
Looking up this one's not that long.
Around 27 feet, I'd say.
Yeah.
Get in! Oh,
Steady on.
During that period when I was in London, I remember an
To
instant
the cup.
when I was thinking, I'm happy now, and I don't want anything
Not a bad line,
else.
miss. And there it is.
London. Two top film folk got spliced and the press and public turned out these
For
books.
the tournament.
He's Polish-born director Roman Polanski. She's American actress Sharon Tate. And huge public interest their wedding created shows that the magic of motion
Let's see what
pictures
happens
is
here.
as strong today as ever. After the ceremony at Chelsea Registry Office, the minigun bride and the mark-geared mate made for the Playboy Club and a star-studded
Shot
reception.
into a sliver of a green.
That's it.
Holly's lavished champagne on some of the top names in show business. Michael Caine keeping company with very dishy Candice Bergen. The bride will keep working, but he says he wants a hippie,
Beautiful
not a
shot happened
housewife.
on the course. Let's take
That
a
was
look.
the only serious note of the day. The Tony Newley's got the star set really shaking.
Interested to see what happens here from the fairway bunker.
California, mean temperature 73 degrees. The sun will never quit. It acts on the unburned
Tony
hydrocarbons
Finau's got
and
plenty of
oxides
power
of
in his
nitrogen
plenty of
from
finesse.
auto exhaust.
Let's get back
Los
to it, shall
Angeles
we?
County, with 4 million
Turn for the
cars,
second shot.
and the odd
Here
bike,
in the fourth.
suffers most because it's in a basin. The breezes are balmy. There's
Choosing the
nothing to
nine
stir
on
up
here.
that brown cloud that can make your eyes tear. 85% of it attributed to cars. The more general effect,
That's
our whole
Tony.
planet is warming up because there's so much carbon dioxide in the air. It's so heavy that it prevents the
Chance
radiation
to
of heat
move
from the
to a
Earth's
couple under the
surface.
card with this putt.
Ah, breathe in, city folk.
oh, straight in. Get in there.
That's a good putt to make. We'll take that. And we'll move to a couple under par. Well, that's worth a replay. Let's take another look.
That's right in the middle of your back. Don't be
Lovely shot.
Now leading by one shot.
The play so far has been stellar, increasing the lead.
Stellar.
Can they maintain it? Let's find out.
Let's see what happens here in the fifth.
Par 4, over 429 yards. This fairway chases
where
away
they
from
live,
the players
among
down
the
the hill,
stables,
so tee
barns,
shots will
and
run
movie
forever,
buildings
setting up a
of an old
second shot
rundown movie
that is very
location
simple and
40 miles from
straightforward.
Los Angeles. They called themselves the Family.
Good looking shot this.
Back and forth, lugging
Oh.
their sleeping bags. They
Oh,
just lived anywhere they felt like.
Luke, unfortunately,
With the
Zach
family.
got a horrible kick, ended up in the rough.
They just sit around all day and tree and got loaded.
Police said they were a pseudo-religious cult.
Get down.
ah, Stuart.
Leader, Charles Manson,
He's a good person. A very good person. He can write music.
He was
That's a
introduced
good
to
goal
us
right
as
there.
their idol and leader.
Oh, this is one of those
And,
lengthy
He
putts.
was always interested in music. And everywhere he went, some of the girls kind of followed him and laughed and talked and sang.
Well, when I first met him, the man talked to me and he says, why don't you come up and the rules are that, there is no rules. You just look at it and just be beautiful
Oh!
with it, and it's just beautiful to you.
Great putt.
Back to that.
Great shot.
And that will take it to 3 under.
It only lies in his happiness.
take another look
That's
at
what
that.
attracts people. Is he's completely happy. He dances. Generally, he dances. He sings. He looks beautiful. He looks happy. And this draws a lot of people. Just like people are drawn to little babies.
Nice.
That's all there is. That's all there is in showing the secret. And
Leading by
Charles
a shot
Manson
after that hole.
is your brother.
Funny. Wow. Sun shining this morning. Really? Yeah. Well, what are your plans?
Bird in the last. Take the on the hole.
Par 4 measures just 361 yards, but only the long players will try and drive this green. The others
You were
lay it up with an
14,
iron,
15,
wedge it on,
16.
hit it close, and make your birdie.
I met him when I was 14. He was kind of impish and playful. You know, he could be funny. He was in the circle playing music, and he got up and offered me his root beer and gave me a big hug and come join us in the circle. We've been waiting for you.
Down the deep rough. Yes, I'll take it.
It just all ended up seeming, like Providence or something. Spawn Ranch had been a movie set for lots of westerns, and when we first saw it, that's what it was. It was kind of a rundown movie set.
Even for the day.
The corral was way to the left, and there was a big barn. There was the jail, and there was a big saloon.
What a shot! Mark it
But there
down
were
for the eagle.
rooms
To the
behind
top
them.
5 he goes.
And then there was the kitchen.
Okay, let's get back to the action.
There was a band of,
with
like,
the
we
third
call
shot.
them outlaw shacks. And then all the way to the right was George's house. He was blind, and it definitely showed.
Gang! Oh, fuck!
As bad
Hopefully just go ahead and tap that
disrepair
in.
as, the
Bastard!
facade needed
Finishes that hole.
inside and out.
Our current leader is enjoying a 2-stroke lead.
And we've cleaned, there was always tons of
Threes are always
sweeping
fun.
to
See if
do.
you can knock it close.
We
Par
marked out
3,
the stalls,
224 yards down the hill.
and we helped out in the
Seemingly
corral, we
short, I
helped
can
rent the
promise you, it
horses.
doesn't.
There were trails all over for riding horses into the hills where all the fabulous rocks are.
Opting for the 5-wood.
We got high, obviously. we
Get
got
up there.
high.
Come on.
I can just remember
Yep, that one's on the
dancing
dance floor. You
together
can chip on
and
that for sure.
just,
Outside
eating
chance here
cooking.
for the birdie.
Let's recap
Helms
what
Baking
Tony
would come
Finau was
by
able to do
and give us their
just a
day
little
old
while
stuff
ago.
at the ranch.
This is a fair reason why our leader is where he is on the leaderboard.
And Charlie introduced us to dumpster diving behind the grocery stores. We had our favorite ones
Well judged.
because they had better food that they threw out.
And back to the course with the live action. A good chance to take
In
it even
the
deeper.
beginning it was
This
different. I
time's
mean,
the
there was
4
just
under.
like 6 of us girls. Mary was pretty reserved, actually. She was very quiet. Mary really was like the matriarch of the family.
Come on! Yes! What a shot that
A
was!
little bit resented, like all of us did.
Gorgeous
Sharon, Charlie.
That shot so good, we need to have another look.
Patty Krenwinkel was just like Mother Earth. I mean, she was just one of the sweetest, humblest, most nurturing girls in the family.
Oh, lovely.
She was just like a giggly high schooler. I viewed her as a little haughty, and I hadn't been to high school. She'd been like a
Lovely momentum for
homecoming
this player.
queen, and
After
she
that
really
birdie at the last
came
hole.
off
Keep
like
it rolling.
that.
Par 4, just 380 yards, but every single
Sandy
shot plays
was
uphill.
very
Make sure
smart,
to
but she was
take
very
plenty of
neat.
club.
You got that sense that she was
Wow,
entitled.
he let the big dog eat there, didn't he?
She has remained one of Charlie's most ardent followers. Susan Atkins was definitely more worldly. She'd been a stripper, maybe she'd even been a sex worker. She'd been around the block. Gypsy came to the family at Spawn Ranch. Gypsy liked that lifestyle.
This one might need to get down a
She
little.
was playful, she played the violin.
Not a
She
bad
was
approach.
definitely
It'll be
a true
fun.
hippie.
This one for back-to-back birdies.
I was closest to really Lynette.
And this putt will take them to 5
Lynette
under.
was kind of looking out after George. Lynette was really the closest confidant to Charlie. He confided more in her
Oh,
than
yes.
in
Drops, and that's back-to-back birdies. And that will
And
take
I
it to
think that
5
Charlie played a different role
Our
for each
leader
one of
is a
us.
couple of shots up at this stage.
I was falling under Charlie's spell.
We've reached the 9th hole.
We were in a deep marriage.
Par 4,
With all the
485
lines
yards,
burned.
the
We're
toughest hole on
brothers,
the
sisters,
golf course.
mothers,
Make sure you
fathers,
find the fairway.
lovers,
Get
everything
your second
to
shot
each other.
somewhere around the green to give yourself the best chance of
One
making
of the
four.
reasons we were pulled to Charlie is because he was a musician. All of us wanted to be musicians, and that's what we did every single night is play music.
Let's make our way to the 10th hole for this impressive play. This is a superb shot from Patrick Cantley.
This is how you do it 7 days a week.
Nailed it.
Usually, we get in the circle, and Charlie would administer the acid like a sacrament almost.
Time for the second shot here at the 9th.
Taking LSD, you can see the trees growing. I mean, you just really feel like at one with the earth and the universe. I mean, you just kind of like everything starts making more sense. And then at some point,
Pay
he
attention,
would
folks. That's how you
orchestrate
play golf.
a loving,
Trying to get to 6 under now with this putt.
orgy, for lack of a better word. I mean, we didn't think of it as an orgy, but that's really what it was. We were dependent upon each other.
Hey, nice looking line.
He didn't want us to think
That's
about
good play.
our
6 balls
families.
around. And that will take him to 6
forget your
under.
parents.
Our leader is
You know, get
enjoying
rid of your inhibitions. You know, what the outside society says is wrong. You know, we're going in the right direction.
Let's see what happens here at the 10th hole.
Par 5, 581 yards. Most players will be laying up for their second shot. There's a large pond on the right-hand side of the green. Collect your golf ball if you hit a wayward one going 4 to 2.
Once you find the fairway.
This is Hollywood, the most famous and most glamorous place in the world. It's a place of dreams, hopes, and riches. Let's go Hollywood backstage and see this unique and fascinating place called Hollywood.
The Hollywood scene was quite a vibrant
Get up
scene.
there, come on.
It was a period when the Beach Boys were very big, Buffalo Springfield, the Birds,
Ah!
were all coming up fast
Bastard.
and big. The scene in the nightclubs was a crazy melange of characters from the rock and roll world and characters from the underworld. You could see the celebrities hanging out at Jack Hansen's Daisy Club. and there he was. Jack Hansen and his wife Sally designed Jack's slacks.
Hollywood is the place where women started wearing pants, led by Marlena Dietrich in the 30s. Blacks are now an accepted item of feminine apparel. But at Jack of Beverly Hills, they achieve a new impressive status.
It can make women, particularly actresses, look sleek and sexy. Jack made a lot of money from it, and he opened his own club. You didn't apply for membership to Jack. You were invited to join. Steve McQueen, Roman Polanski there with Sharon Tate. Then, of course, there was Jay Sebring, who earned huge amounts of money for giving a movie star a haircut. And they could go wild, and they could know that no paparazzi would take their pictures. Drugs were being used. If you saw it, you didn't talk about it. Many stars were probably looking for a little bit of an extra kick. So anybody with a kind of a rough reputation might have been adopted into the scene.
Yes, very smooth tempo there on that chip.
That's great momentum. 4 birdies on the trot.
this movie in Topanga Canyon, just a stupid nudie cutie. And they wanted a bunch of girls that can look like Indians.
That's nice.
I read for them and they said, we'd like to offer you one of the main roles.
The
So
iron
that
play today has
was
been
Grandmother.
absolutely stellar. Luke, the greens and regulation, just a
I
fantastic
show up,
accomplishment.
and
Great
just a
to
little ways
watch.
off, I see this
Well, this will be good for
stunningly
the momentum.
handsome
Let's
young
make this birdie
man.
putt.
And he came over and he got really, really close. And he said, I'm your love
Nice
interest.
stroke.
And he
Always
said,
nice
do you
to
mind
hold
if
on to
I get a
And
preview?
that will take him to 8 under.
He lifted
See
my
your
top.
two.
He goes, perfect, just like I thought. Turned around and said,
Let's
I'll
see
see
what
you
happens here in the
later.
12th.
And
Par
that's how
3
I met
plays
Bobby.
208 yards from the back. In saying that, this is a good birdie opportunity as the green is massive in
laid
size.
back compared to Los Angeles.
Go
You
with the
had the
hybrid.
feeling that you were out in the country, even though it was fairly close to civilization. First time I met Charlie was down in the Topanga Canyon where it meets the highway.
Will that all work? Up on the dance floor?
I heard music coming from this old
Outside chance
wooden
of
house.
birdie, but a
I went
two-putt
up
here
two
is
spiral
still
staircase.
good.
There was a guy in a plaid shirt singing, playing guitar.
Jesus. No chance.
Started playing this little instrument I found on the table, and it did the best I could to fit in with the man who was singing, who I was later introduced to as Charlie. After I looked into Topanga, I wanted to try to get some jobs to play guitar. One day I did get a call from the bass player in a band called the Milky Way. The band was built around the songs that Charlie was doing. We played at Topanga for I think 2 nights or 3 nights before we were playing.
Putt.
I wasn't going to do any
give us an
time
update.
yet. I
We're
had no
shaking.
interest in that.
Just down to 13.
But he is a person, as a musician, I did have an interest in. I thought he was worth investing a little myself in.
Oh, that one just missed the hole.
It was enough
That was
of an interest to me that I kept coming back.
Our leader is out in front by a whopping 5 strokes. And after that effort, this is how the field is shaping up. And now teeing off on this par 4 hole.
Par 4, back up the hill, 418 yards, the widest fairway on the golf course. Avoid all those bunkers. Second shot up the hill to a narrow green that slopes off on both sides.
This looks to be hitting
A
with
couple of girls met Dennis Wilson. He picked him up hitchhiking, and they introduced him to Charlie.
Well, there's action aplenty all over the course.
I think the
Let's have a
two
look at
must
this
have hit it
highlight from
off.
another player.
Suddenly
Our
we
current
were
leader
like
showing us
living
why
there.
they're on top.
Oh, check this out, showing us how it's done from the sand.
Wow, that almost
When we
dropped the
first drove
toss.
into Dennis Wilson's estate, there was peacocks roaming around and big eucalyptus trees and just a rambling
Second
log
shot
home with a
here on
lot
the
of
13th
glass.
hole.
It was really beautiful.
There was a guest house, big swimming pool.
Oh, that's a great shot. It sets up a birdie look here at the 13th.
Just a beautiful place, the inside. Huge fireplace that you could walk
This could go in.
into.
And another one goes.
Charlie was teaching Dennis how to play the guitar, and
Leading by
Dennis
6 strokes after
welcomed
that one.
Charlie and us girls into his home, and we would take his Rolls Royce and go dumpster diving. We made food, and he was impressed. I remember making him a strawberry cake, you know, and he was like, "Wow, this came out of the, this came out of the dumpster."
Eagle 2.
He would introduce Charlie to his other musician friends with pride.
This looks to be a fairway seeker to me.
Both Terry Melcher and Greg Jacobson came and listened to Charlie
Jesus,
play
what
guitar
a dodgy
and
bank
sing.
that was.
Dennis called me up and was very excited to tour and got to meet this guy and these girls, and he went on and on. And sure enough, it was quite an interesting scene. Everybody was having a good time, drinking beer, smoking a joint, girls in the swimming pool.
Be nice to see this one go down.
Charlie was inside and he was very demanding.
Nicely
He
done.
did garner
Holds the
your
putt for
attention.
back-to-back birdies.
He was a fascinating character. He was really interesting.
Now 6 shots in front after that hole.
Dennis used to call Charlie the Wizard. He really thought that Charlie was magical. In the beginning, he was really enamored by it.
Dennis had an affinity for finding the wakes, the people that seemed to be misfits. They would all seem to find him. That's where Charlie Manson came into the scene. He was one of Dennis's projects.
Let's start to head back down to the fairways, John.
He
What's
was
up,
a
mate?
friend of mine. He would find the places that we were, and he would just be there. I just thought he was a seedy little character, and I just, and he also didn't bathe, and none of those people did, and so you knew he was there a block away, just,
Time now to play the
that's
second
who he
shot on the
was.
15th
The
hole.
smartest people in the world are really the most cut off.
And he would make you listen to this guy, and people were doing it to humor Dennis, or because
this
of
needs a little
who he
right turn,
was, people were
Clyde.
giving him the respect.
Take all the words away. And don't think it right and wrong, just think in truth.
Yeah, not a bad effort, that
The
one.
weirdest
Up
thing
onto the
was,
green, and a chance
first
to
the
hold
parties were in the guest house, and this Manson and his crew would be there, and then it kind of flipped itself, and Dennis moved those people into his house, and he stayed in the guest house on his own property. So for some reason, Charlie was able to manipulate him.
the party coming up.
Charles had convinced him that the music that he was playing was good and that he was going to be a superstar. And so I guess Dennis went along with it, I guess, and tried introducing him to people and to try to get him a record deal and all that.
Do whatever you feel, man.
Yeah, well, I won't do it.
Whatever comes in your mind. I'm just sitting there gonna groove with you for the next hour and a half.
Let's see what happens here at the 16th.
We went to Brian Wilson's to a session that they were going to record maybe a demo.
Don't let the beauty of the river to your left swallow you in. This is a tough but fun little par three.
Oh, this one's right down the pipe.
Oh, fuck!
That's a golf shot.
Good shot in there. I like their chances for making birdie.
Well, that hole's behind us. Now at 11 under for the day. Welcome to this par 5 hole.
Players looking for a fast finish on the par 5, 550 yards. Second shot does play up the hill, but there's plenty of room to miss your second shot around this green. Must make birdie for the players in the field.
Well, after a successful drive at the 17th at TPC Deere Run,
Summer was coming to an end.
faced with a
At
question,
some point,
Rich.
Dennis would have to
Lay up or
leave.
go
The
for
Beach Boys were going to go on
Second
the road.
shot straight back up the hill. Most players will
Yeah,
bail
that's
just a
when
little
things
bit
would
left
start
as the
to fall
green
apart.
tends to run away quite a bit
I
down
remember
the
at
slope
one
on the
point,
right hand
Dennis is
side.
gone. One of
This
the
is
key
a
points
great
is Dennis
opportunity
says you
and
have
possibly the
a
final birdie
$1,200
opportunity on this
Altadena
golf
Dairy
course.
bill. They were charging everything. The Altadena Dairy man would like be unloading his
There's
truck
some
there.
energy and
Like,
action
so
going on
that
all
started
around
to
this property.
play on
Wonder
Dennis.
what's happened.
Jesus
He wanted
Christ!
people to take advantage of it. I don't know if he does.
Not
And
work.
It became more and more apparent that that's what was going
Well,
on.
this is one of
No.
those lines that
That
dictates
was
a
maybe more than anything
shot.
else the formal beginning of the split of going their separate ways.
Oh, that's great. It just missed the hole.
He was going to go away for 2 weeks on the road. He said, "Greg, can you get me out of here? Can you find a house for
11
me?"
feet to the cup.
So literally, I hired a moving company to take Dennis' personal stuff out of there. And the whole idea was
Again.
to let the girl
Yes.
know he was really trying to divorce himself. And that was
Back-to-back
really
birdies
done.
moving the right direction there, Luke.
Now, current leader is enjoying an 8-stroke advantage. If you want to win a TPC Deere Run, you've got to successfully navigate this challenging final hole.
Hard to describe the difficulty of this tee shot unless you've actually been here, par 4,
In
463 yards.
1967,
Missed the fairway bumper
68,
down the
and
right-hand side,
69,
and you've got a clear shot to a
we
very
had
narrow
bigotry,
green surrounded by water.
racial
left-hand side.
prejudice, and there were race riots in every major American city.
This drive's hitting for the fairway in my eyes.
We're in the worst crisis we've known since the Civil War. And time is running short to try to find some answers for it.
Playing this shot from about 170 yards.
This was the image of the Negro Revolution only a few years ago. Negro and white, side by side. Patient
I
Negro.
like that strike. This one's hitting
The
well
violence
towards
we
the green.
saw was white. We saw Negroes
Oh, what a
posed
shot.
and beaten,
We'll take that.
harassed with dogs.
That's a lovely shot here in the 18th. And it shows the boot hit the
The
left.
images were different. Burn, baby, burn. Round out. We shall overcome.
It's up. It could be in. Gets that one to go down. That'll end the day's work.
Great round.
Dr. Martin Luther King. I ask every
Well,
citizen
that's a lovely way to finish the
to
opening
reject
round.
the
Out
violent
in front,
violence
the leader.
that has
That's
put
right.
Dr.
Oh, it's
King.
been sparkling, hasn't it? It's been a pleasure to watch. It's got to be a little strange to have such a massive lead because there's only one way to go, and that's down. Let's see how they handle the pressure on the final round.
Well, on behalf of myself,
Charlie
Luke Elby,
Hansen thought
and
black
Rich
people
B,
were
thanks for
inferior,
tuning
but he
in.
also
Catch you
feared
tomorrow.
them. He began by being afraid of the black Muslims in prison. So what Charlie talks about is a race wars coming.
The call was for violence, and it filled the air, it seemed everywhere. I saw myself reflected in the wildness of their hope.
But impressed with his talent, made him angry. Put his guitar in the van and hardly said, 2 words and off we went. Then we met at the gas station. I said, if I go to Big Sur with you,
It's a
will you
pleasure to
take
bring
me
you
to
our
San
PGA
Diego
Tour action
to get my
live on 2K
things?
Sports.
And he promised
Today's
me that he
coverage
would.
of the John Deere Classic is about to
And he
start.
did.
Delighted to have your company for this final round action. I'm Luke Elby with Rich Beam in the booth, and we've got John McCarthy.
We spent a couple of hours with my sister and Charlie and my sister's boyfriend, and I don't think they were happy. They were on the outside looking in, and I don't think they were real glad that I was going with him, but nevertheless, I was. So basically, I didn't take much. A few clothes, my dog, and my guitar.
Let's see what he can do here today.
When we pulled up to the ranch, everything was turned over. Any clothes that I brought went into a communal pile, my driver's license, any money I had, which was probably very, very little. Everything that we had went into like a communal pot, and everybody just used whatever. Kind of gave up your identity,
Oh, what a gorgeous looking shot that is, Rich.
Oh. Peach.
Outstanding approach shot. Look at him just surging ahead at the top of the leaderboard.
Oh, thank you very much.
I asked Charlie,
Sitting at
hey, you know what's up
Charlie.
Can't birdie them all
He
unless
said,
you
yeah,
birdie
he
the
got
first loop.
busted in a
Good
dead
start.
man's car, and now he's in for murder.
Always positive coming off a birdie. Let's see what happens here.
And he kind of said with disdain,
551
and
yards
I said,
long.
well, what jail is he
Players
in?
will
I'll
be
go see
looking
him.
for the opportunities to
And
make
he said,
4 here.
I've got this covered,
They're out of
you
position.
stay out of it.
Sixes.
This one's looking good on Patek. That should find the short stuff. And this shot from about
My
240
world,
yards.
there's no wrong. You think that my mind is like your mind, but it isn't. Confusion.
Looks like they've got the fire.
Confusion.
Get up there, come on.
Living is what scares me.
Oh, fuck off. Awesome.
But there is something else here. We have known what Manson did without understanding why.
Charlie played a different role for each one of us.
We were everything to each other.
This wasn't what I signed up for.
These were America's children. It was the 60s. It was a perfect storm.
People have been brainwashed to believe the real reason behind these moves was to start a nation.
Particularly what's here again.
Helter Skelter simply means confusion.
And this effort by Justin Thomas. All right, John, how's this pup looking?
Well, looks like about 30 feet to the hole, guys.
He's made it for eagle. Let's get back to it, shall we? Getting ready to play their third. Feet to the cup.
People say I'm no good.
Through the ages, philosophers and theologians have debated the nature of evil.
It's tracking.
Yes!
Physical force.
Take the ball.
Can it be measured?
Woo!
Understood?
Two in a row.
Beautiful.
Currently 15
Beautiful.
under par for the event. And I don't know if the rest of the field is up for catching them here today in this final round of action. I'm pretty sure this player will be buoyed by that birdie back at the last. Let's see if they can deliver another one.
Par 3, 183 yards back up the hill. A blind tee shot, but a simple tee shot all in all.
I've been an outlaw ever since I was born. I went to reform school when I was about 10. And I learned to box and cry. And I learned to do all the things that you do in reform school.
Get up. Come on, get up there.
I escaped there a bunch of times and I went to prison. And I learned everything that you do in prison. And I talked to all the guys and asked them everything they knew. And they told me sincerely and honestly, it took a lot
We
of
had a few
time.
birdies today. This for
And then I went
another.
outside and all these little kids got a hold of me and said, we ain't gonna stop the Vietnam War. We want to do this. What? It was a war? I don't know what's happening. I've been in jail all my life. You ever see me in vocational training, rehabilitation? I never played no rehabilitation. I sweep the floor in the kitchen. Go out and play handball. I'm still 10 years old. Little boy. You know, I'm still a kid.
Remember, putting's a finesse game. Looks like a pretty straightforward 5-footer to me.
Straightforward, eh?
Well hold.
Anything but straightforward.
Currently 15 under par for the event. And I don't give the rest of the field much hope today. Our leader is way out in front in this final round. Tee is yours. Here we are at the fourth hole.
Par 4, 448 yards. Sweeping dog leg left to right. Big tree in the middle. Missed that. And you've got a simple second shot into a sliver of a green.
Oh, that is crushed.
At this point, we are going to go heat park to go into and take a slight sojourn through the 8th Ashbury district of San Francisco. This is the new avant-garde left bank area of San Francisco, which has evolved and developed over the past number of years. In fact, I would say that the last 18 months have seen a tremendous increase of the so-called hippie movement have invaded and lived in this area. It is the belief of people who live in the area that we, the middle class or the upper class, have done a very, very poor job in running our government and our way of life.
Well, that's high quality. I'm sure they're aiming for it, but for it to go in, that's awesome.
Is where the action is. This is where the hippies began their march towards flower power and the quiet revolution.
Let's return
and
to
a
the
rallying
play
cry for the new and irreverent way of life of those who preach the dropout gospel.
In 1967, the American public first becomes aware of what is described as an aberration happening out in San Francisco.
Still in the lead
Because
now
San
after that
Francisco's
hole.
always
And
been
I don't
where
know if
the
the rest of the field is
weirdos
up for catching
go.
them here today in this final round of action. Here we are at the fifth hole.
The idea was starting to spread among younger Americans, casting off supposedly the conservative change of old American society. This current way of life we have, the way our parents are living, is wrong.
The Haight-Ashbury community has created the Council for a Summer of Love in San Francisco.
We affirm life, love, peace, and self-discovery.
People come here to love one another and to be in love with each other.
Perfect.
I think in Charlie Manson's case, he really suffered from a lack of love. And then he got out in '67, and wow, it's a cultural revolution. And it's free love, and everybody's talking about getting rid of your inhibitions, and your fears, and so he just grew his hair long and started thinking about the older man, in this new alternative culture.
Birdie at the last.
It really was a perfect storm. All those elements that came together, the music, the drugs, free love and everything. The ideology that we thought we had discovered something new.
Oh, Jesus.
There was a feeling that we were all brothers and sisters more than we thought before.
And that might have been enhanced by acid.
So no change on the leaderboard for this player after that hole.
Lysergic acid
And I don't give the rest of the
diafluoride.
field much
Easy
hope
to
today.
make,
Our leader
incredibly
is way
potent.
out in front
A
in this
single
final
ounce
round.
contains
Here we are at
300,000
the sixth hole.
doses. Each dose drastic in its effects.
361 yards.
LSD is the most potent drug ever discovered. To understand how profound it is, you have to understand how it works in the brain. This is the brain. This is the white matter, the thinking part, consciousness. LSD comes into the brain. All there's a switch. All there's the electrical patterns going into the memory circuit. It has a very profound impact on those neuroanatomical connections, in which one central modality is translated into another.
Oh, what a shot that is!
Great ball striking. It's a thing
You
of
see the universe in a way that you've never seen it
Nice
before.
one.
It's
Fourth
like
birdie of the
having
day.
like a religious vision, and you feel that you have broken on through to the other
This
side.
effort by Justin Thomas.
The best, most direct, the most natural way to find God is through chemicals. And today it's marijuana, LSD, peyote, mescaline, and many other mind expanding drugs which are coming along every month.
We'll take that also into the top
Some
5
4
now.
million Americans are said to have taken LSD last year. Far more than a fad, it is to some a new
This is
religion.
what the leaderboard looks
It
like.
is a drug in which there is no knowledge about the eventual harmful results. One individual can apparently escape with no problem. Others immediately have a great problem. There is a residual effect that this can come back with what might be permanent brain damage. Anyone that would engage in this or indulge in this is just a plain fool.
Across the bay in Berkeley, there was student unrest.
Looks to be going with a hybrid here.
College was placed to
Hoping for a bounce here,
protest.
preferably to the left.
And of all the places that this was happening, Berkeley was probably the greatest.
The feeling, the passion against the wall was just ferocious.
I've seen it happen before.
Every night,
so
the
there's a
network
chance.
leading anchor people giving you a death toll of the dead Americans in Vietnam.
And the figures for last week reflected the sharp increase in the fighting. 408 Americans were killed, the highest number since the end of the enemy's May offensive.
Americans dying for who knew why.
Get in! Get in! Yes! Oh, what a putt!
He ends up in Berkeley.
Gorgeous!
And he would be perfect fitting into the
What a
anti-war demonstrations, to the feminist. Except he didn't care about any goddamn war overseas.
What happened there?
If blacks and women were
Oh,
oppressed,
come
that
on!
was great. That's the way the world's supposed to work.
Increase
Free
their
love.
lead. This is
That
impressive,
screwed him
Luke,
up.
but
How can you
can
be a
they
pimp if
hold
everybody
up
can get
this
laid
play?
for nothing? So Charlie's out of his element at Berkeley, but he does hone in on the one thing. You've got young people who feel alienated. They don't feel like they belong. Mary Grinner's a librarian in Berkeley. She's out of place there. Instead of wearing sort of a hippie garb, she's wearing glasses buttoned up to the neck. She's from the Midwest. Charlie can tell she's uncomfortable. When he meets her, she's walking her dog. And Charlie makes inroads with her by fussing over the pet. They start talking. He's using all the Dale Carnegie techniques. They're becoming friends, and Charlie just happens to mention he doesn't have any place to stay right now. Mary says, as he knew she would, wait, stay at my place for a couple nights. Once he's there, he goes about talking his way into her bed. Then Mary gets the idea this is a love affair. It's her and Charlie. So she's going to work and make the money, and Charlie will go out during the day and work on his music and do Charlie things. She soon sees that he's bringing girls back, but he's telling her, but you can't get upset about this. Nobody's body is your own. We're just doing the natural thing. She gradually sees she's going to have to share Charlie.
Charlie Manson came to Ashbury during that transitional period when things were getting, harder and meaner.
Make sure you find the fairway.
Charlie took LSD to become part of that concert.
So I went down and I looked around and I said, hey, this is good. Oh, I want to do They picked me up, 16-year-old kid. I said, where you sleep? He said, we're all laid down. I said, don't you have to have an apartment? He said, no, I sleep in the apartment. How do you do that? He said, sleeping bag. I said, is that right? What do you eat? He said, food. I said, where do you get it? He said, wherever I can. I said, don't you have a job? He laughed at me. He said, no, we're not the Diggers.
The Diggers, adopting the name of a Christian society of Cromwell in England, are the conscience of the hippies, who find dirt and disorder appealing and only work when they must.
Same spot as yesterday, looking for the same result today.
Hippies sharing their rice and beans and hepatitis and venereal disease.
The Diggers decided to feed the street kids. We had to wind up sending our women holding babies to the farmers' markets. The old Italians would give them all the day old food right that day. And that night, anyone who showed up with a bowl and a spoon could get fed. We set up free stores which had clothes, tools, televisions, bicycles, everything worked. And the supposition was, why do you want to get a job and become an
Oh, you've overhit that. Jesus Christ.
We'll give you the shit.
Oh, God.
What are you going to do with your life? These were America's children. And they were runaways. Because a lot of the people who came back from World War II had PTSD. And it was undiagnosed. And they were drinking themselves into coma. They were beating their kids or beating their wives. In the 50s, it was not a lot of fun for a lot of people. And I think the kids who left those families, they were looking for something because life wasn't working. And they were looking for guidance wherever they could find it. And anybody with a lot of charisma and the ability to rap could swing somebody.
Second shot here at the 10th. Your home is where you're happy. It's not where you're free.
Everybody's talking gurus, great philosophers who can teach you how to live if only you will follow them. And in San Francisco in Golden Gate Park, any time of day or night, there's dozens of people proclaiming themselves gurus.
Oh.
That was a sensational play.
Charlie is not some great philosopher,
Between him and the hole.
but from his pimp days, he knows how to recognize kids, particularly young girls, that might be seduced in the right ways if only he can
And still
learn
in
them.
top spot after that hole.
And so he hangs around Golden Gate Park listening to the
This final
gurus.
round of action. Lovely momentum for this player after that birdie at the last hole. Keep it rolling.
Par 4, 428 yard, tree line hole, difficult driving hole all the way around, but should you find the fairway,
The standard message of all of his
just above the
gurus
fairway,
said was society is corrupt. You need to drop out of society, become involved in this alternate reality.
Drop out of high school. Drop out of college.
At the 11.
Drop out of graduate school. Turn on.
Going with the 7.
Tune in. Drop out.
These gurus, however, control the alternate reality.
Too short. John,
Don't think in right and wrong, just think in truth.
He's got about
No, the answers are
26
there.
feet to go from
There
here.
are no big answers. All the big colleges that we've been building is taking people the other way. The smartest people in the world are really the most cut off.
Steady now.
It's the common people, man.
Right on
With
4
the
feet.
soul.
Should make this one.
Charlie used a combination of sort of psychological ploys. Your families don't understand you.
Well done.
I'm the only one that loves you. Come with me and be part of a real family.
Johnny Mac, what's the news?
Judicious use of drugs, making sure that the kids were high a lot of the time. And he gradually started a little group, beginning with Mary Bruner,
So after that hole,
and
this is the
Lynette
current
Frome, who was a
standings.
runaway that he met in Venice, California. Patricia Krenwinkel, a sad sort of case, who was living in a sort of chaotic situation with her sister and was met and seduced by Charlie. And then his first real find, Susan Atkins, who Charlie particularly cherished because she was a very attractive girl. And he could use her as sort of sexual bait to try to get men into his group.
No harm, no foul there with that shot.
LSD, had sex with the girls, we talked about this alternate vision was a real vision, and Charlie was the master. But he also took LSD and had this altered consciousness
Come on!
experience.
Oh, beautiful!
There was a free clinic in Haight-Ashbury for the hippies who were sick and didn't have hospitals to go to.
Bad drug trips led many in the Hague to Dr. David Smith's free clinic for treatment.
Oh, that was sensational. Bravo!
And this effort from Patrick Kennedy just a short while ago.
I think we saw 25,000 patients the first year.
Long-range putt?
And into that scene came the Manson family. Their place where they lived was right around the block on Cole Street, just 2 blocks from our clinic. Manson was a fairly well-known individual, and he came to our clinic in '67 for medical reasons. It was really interesting, almost creepy, how much control we have. But if you see something creepy in a weird environment, you don't think it's
Avoid all those
weird.
bunkers. Second shot up the hill.
What I heard was that he was recruiting in the neighborhood. But there was a lot of recruitment going on by a number of different people. It was kind of like competing cults.
And that was a problem for Charlie, because essentially he's competing with all the other gurus. So he had to set up something that was different.
Opted for the 8-iron.
Charlie still wanted to be a rock and roll star, and intended to make that happen.
Again! Oh, oh man, that was too close.
By the time he spent a couple of months in San Francisco, he had his little entourage. Charlie loaded his girls in the bus, and off he went on his merry way from San Francisco down to LA.
And they'd be feeling buoyed with confidence after that birdie. There's a good chance to maintain the momentum.
If you feel brave, you can certainly take driver out, but I suspect a lot of players will lay back with an iron, giving themselves a short yet simple second shot. A birdie here is a bust if you want to win.
Not a bad line, this one.
Fucking hell. What was that bounce? Jesus Christ.
Not end up where you said it was going to. It's in the rough.
Shocking bounce.
Catch this action from just a moment ago.
No two people are alike, and no two communities either. But the people and the community of Topanga Canyon are even more different than most.
I gotta say, I'm glad we got another look. That is in there close.
Well, Rich, I'm being honest, this line is putrid.
Yes, it is awful, yucky, smelly.
Everybody up here is kind of an individualistic trip for them, you know. They have to get out in the sunshine and take off their clothes and move over the trees and paint their paintings and float the Goldwater if they want to.
I mean, you can't really
He just keeps putting a
being
gap on the
on
rest
the
of the
trip
field.
up here because it's so beautiful. True hippies are the people that just live the way that life is really meant to be without really any materialistic things. They're very happy, get on very well without any money. But sometimes it gets kind of rough.
This hole here is a par 4.
Hippie tribes gather 20,000 strong for a love day. The new waves come bearing beads and blossoms and bells, looking for new experience and new magic.
When my parents started turning on and tuning in at the same time, there started to be a group of people that would go to Griffith Park and, you know, with tie-dyed shirts and flags and drums. They called it a bean, so people would just go and bean. And my dad and a couple of the guys decided that they were going to do the dropout thing and got bread trucks, converted them to campers, and we had a big yard sale and sold everything, and in September we went on down the road. And we ended up at the hog farm, this commune. It really was a hog farm. They painted the pigs, they rode the pigs. There was no electricity. My dad put a big geodesic dome on the hill, and they would have these ohm circles.
This one is for his par.
There was lots of characters. It wasn't too many days later that Later came on me and his wife Bonnie Jean came and had a little talk with me, letting me know that they were uncomfortable with my being there because I was jailbait. I was a sexually active, 14-year-old. So they arranged for friends to come and talk me into going to live with them, which I did. And they invited me to come along with them to this party at the Spiral Staircase house to meet this groovy guy and his girls.
Wonderful place.
These girls started coming over. Diane, here's our Charlie, Diane's here, you know, and he was in the circle playing music, and he got up and offered me his root beer and gave me a big hug, and, you know, come join us in the circle, we've been waiting for you.
This out, holding it out from the fairway, that away, great shot.
Charlie did take me to the bus that night and made love to me in a way that I'd never experienced it before. It made me really feel very, womanly. I felt totally accepted and totally loved and adored, and it was really magical. It just all ended up seeming, like Providence or something.
He's currently sitting in first place.
2 holes to go, Luke. Can they hang on?
Let's see what happens here at the 17th.
Paul Watkins showed up at the house in Topanga where he was told he could get good weed, and knocked at the door and heard these half-naked girls. Said, "Hi, come in," and I thought this is rather interesting, and he went in, he got his weed, and he met Manson. Paul was good-looking, very easy to talk to, so he became Manson's chief recruiter for young women. He'd go out and pick up hitchhikers and bring them back again. Because Watkins looked very young, Manson suggested that he get himself some kind of fake ID and then enroll in high school.
Terrible bait again!
Look at possible contenders for the family. The girls brought in Angela Lansbury's daughter, Deirdre. And Deirdre, for one period of time, did get enamored with the Manson family and allowed them to use her credit card. But then her mother, Angela, was worried about her daughter going into drugs. She immediately grabbed her and sent her to Ireland.
Jesus. Especially when it's for Bernie.
Bobby Cupid Beausoleil, a good-looking guy called Cupid because he was a conquering hero with the girls. Son of a milkman in Santa Barbara, troubled kid,
Managing to maintain
went
their
to
position
reform
on
school,
the leaderboard.
decided he was going to
Give the
become a
rest of the field
musician.
much hope today.
Beausoleil is a couple of things that Charlie wants to be in his life.
Coming off the birdie.
First of all, he's extremely good looking. And he's got good looking women following him. And Charlie doesn't have that. Second, Beausoleil is a better musician than Charlie. And he and Charlie even decided to be in a band together, and they played a couple gigs, and Charlie couldn't keep up with Bobby, and Bobby knew it, but they both could be of use to each other.
Well played.
Charlie was a guy
This shot coming
marched
from around the 150-yard mark.
When Charlie played music, his tempo and his rhythmic structure would shift.
And choosing
And
the
he would
8
do it deliberately.
Don't.
He didn't want to be in regimented time. He had an aversion to any sort of regimentation.
Right out of the copy
And no
books.
doubt that has to do with having come out of
on the
an
last.
environment,
We're
prison where
looking for a
a lot
second
of
in
things
a
are
row here.
regimented.
Lining up here for a chance to win the tournament. What a putt to make.
The music scene had primarily been in New York City for rock and roll during the 50s and
Get in now!
the West Coast in 1964 when the Beatles came out because Capitol Records, their label was near the corner of Hollywood and Vine. And Phil Spector had been making records in LA for a few years, and also the Beach Boys became like the most popular band in America at that time. And the Beach Boys were like the only American group that kind of kept up with the Beatles. There was even a friendly rivalry between them. And then Dick Clark moved American Bandstand out to the West Coast. Rock and roll was displacing movies as the most exciting thing happening in Hollywood during the middle 60s. The Sunset Strip was sort of like downtown for this burgeoning rock and roll scene. In 1964, the Whiskey Go-Go opened. And before you know it, the Whiskey Go-Go's got all the great groups. Like Frank Zappa's Mothers of Invention, Jim Morrison and his group, The Doors, and Buffalo Springfield with Neil Young and Stephen Stills, and Love with Arthur Lee and all his wild psychedelic things. And eventually Led Zeppelin would play there, and Cream would play there, and all the biggest groups.
Ooh, nice
The
hat.
Whiskey Go-Go had female DJs spinning records between the groups. They were in the glass booth above the dance floor, and they would dance to the records.
Blimey. 4 points.
Joni Levine designed a fringe dress
that shit all about?
flappers in the 20s and paired it with white go-go boots.
Cool.
Producers hung out in the Whiskey Go-Go too. Harry Melcher was a producer at Columbia Records. Melcher came from Hollywood royalty. He was Doris Day's son and was good friends with Dennis Wilson of the Beach Boys. He was working with some of the most influential bands at the time.
Another one that bites the dust.
His main group was the Byrds. Their anti-establishment and socially conscious lyrics became a new type of rock and roll. Because everybody had bonded together through rock and roll as kids in the 50s, but during the 60s they were dealing with the Vietnam War, civil rights, and the larger threat of nuclear weapons. So the music began